Jonathan Alward joins us. He's the Canadian Federation of Independent Business Director for the Prairie Region. Hey, John.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Let's talk about a statement you folks put out. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business released this a little earlier today, essentially talking about the Government of Manitoba's new program called Healthy Hire Manitoba. You want to explain a bit about what you're saying here?
Yeah, exactly. So it's no secret that small businesses really across the province are going to need help bringing back staff or hiring new staff as the province progressively opens over the summer. And that's, good news, but it comes with a lot of costs where businesses still need a lot of that support. So we've been asking the province for a hiring grant or other programs to help come to that same end. And what they announced today was a program aimed at subsidizing wages up to $5,000 per employee for anyone you're bringing back to work or hiring new. But there's an important condition that we have some significant concerns about, and that's those staff have to attest to the fact that they've been vaccinated or plan to. I think this is a really good program. At its core, it's great that it complements the other federal programs aimed at helping businesses with those kind of wage costs. But there are a lot of concerns that business owners could be, liable, could, maybe see a human rights tribunal if they're supposed to be hiring staff based on whether or not they have been or plan to get vaccinated.
Let's split it up into two parts. Because I think, what I'm hearing is really it is two issues here, right? The one is supporting workers, and that's perhaps a good thing. And no issue with the fact that they're going to subsidize wages, is there?
No, not at all. And it's something I think that's very needed still for businesses across the province, especially if you look at the two federal programs that will be in place in July. One's a hiring incentive and one's a wage subsidy. And employers are going to be forced to choose which of those two federal supports they need. The good news is that Manitoba's program can come in behind and complement those programs to make sure that Manitoba businesses get the help that they are going to need.
So part two is this whole idea, and I think in your statement here, it sort of reads, they're trying to do too many things at once. Part one is good, but this idea of causing people to have to be vaccinated to get a job, that's where the concern comes?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And, again, we certainly understand that the province wants as many people to be vaccinated as quickly as possible, but there are a lot of other ways that they're already doing that and could do it otherwise. The big concern is not only that you're muddying the water with all these extra obligations that make this program really complicated, but again, you're possibly exposing businesses to some risk if they do want to hire employees through this program. And again, based on the advice that our organization has received, and we've been hearing this concern a lot from businesses across the country, whether or not can you force your employees to get vaccinated. It's a hot topic, and I think to the same end, whether or not you can hire employees based on whether or not they've been vaccinated, I think would be a very controversial, delicate situation as well.
I know I spoke to the Human Rights Commission a few minutes ago, and their initial take was it was the employer's responsibility to implement this program in a way that didn't discriminate, not the province's role.
Yeah, certainly, and I understand that. We're still waiting on some important details for the program to roll out, at least the last I checked on the government's website. But that can get really complicated, and for our members, which are the majority of businesses across the province, you're talking about, fewer than 10 staff. They don't have dedicated HR teams and experts helping them in the hiring process. This is adding a huge layer of not only confusion, but potential for making a mistake that's just really unnecessary at this point. We need to help our businesses in the best way possible to get back on their feet and their staff with them, not, saddle them with additional red tape and concern that could really prevent them from hiring or, maybe even worse, cost them a significant amount in the long run.
Now, it's been about 3-4 hours since the government announced this program. In that time, we've heard from hundreds of people already denouncing the program, saying they're very upset with it, very concerned. We've heard from a few saying it's a good idea, some even going so far as to say the business owners should have to prove they're vaccinated to qualify for the program as well. Probably of all the COVID information we've had the last few months, this is more reaction to this story than anywhere else. Are you getting the similar sort of thing from your members, the immediate reaction?
We have a team of dedicated business resource counselors across the country who are fielding questions from our members. Probably many of the similar ones. We're still waiting on some additional information from the government, but we're expecting to hear those same kind of questions or frankly, concerns. That's why we did put out our statement earlier asking the province to drop this requirement immediately. Again, we're not trying to disagree with the intent that the province wants as many people vaccinated as possible. They're already doing a lot of different initiatives to that end. Even the reopening plan. But whether you disagree or not with people getting vaccinated, putting the onus back on the small business owners to do that at a time when they're just trying to save their own business from going bankrupt, it just doesn't make any sense and really would undermine what could be otherwise a great provincial program.
I want to talk about the part one of the program for a minute, because we're starting to hear from some businesses that were part of these programs in the past, very similar ones that were held in the fall, where you could hire and they would pay 50% of the wages. And it's June now. Those programs ended in December. We're being told that some businesses are just now being denied those programs after they hired the employees, paid out the money, and now the province is saying, sorry, we found a reason not to give you any of the money. Do you have any sense of how common that is?
I haven't heard that yet, fortunately, from any of our members, but certainly if any business owners out there are listening or staff that are working in those businesses that have heard about this, please call us today at 1-888-234-2232. We would really like to hear more about that and see if there's anything that we can do to help. We heard a lot of problems about those wage subsidy programs. They had a couple iterations of them last summer. One of the big problems is they continued extending the program, but all the money was coming at the back end. So then they pivoted last fall and decided to give some of the money more up front. But I even heard, well into the spring, quite a few businesses that had applied to the program still hadn't been able to receive any funding. And I don't want to assume that this program will be working in the same way until we know more. The government has already made a couple important fixes with this program compared to the previous iteration, where you can use this funding in addition to complement what you might be getting from the federal government or similar federal programs, which wasn't the case last year. But that's definitely going to be a concern. And, fortunately, the government has been open to pivoting and finding improvements as they've gone. So I'm not giving out hope yet that the program will be similar to the previous one.
Just in the minute or two we have left, John, I wanted to step away from this a little bit and just talk about members in general. How are they doing now as we start to look at reopening for the summer? Is there some hope out there?
Well, I think after yesterday, certainly there's a lot more hope out there for many business owners, but not everyone. Talking with a few in the fitness sector, for example, 25% occupancy might sound great, but for those businesses, they're still probably going to continue to lose money every day they're open until they get closer to something like a 50% target now, which looks like probably August the 1st or thereabouts. The reality is, though, I think as long as we can kind of progressively reopen, that optimism will improve. Hopefully everyone can rally together and support local as much as possible this summer. If you're going to travel, I'd certainly encourage you to do staycations, across Manitoba and discover all the great communities and locations, destinations the province has to offer. But it's going to be an uphill climb. Based on our data for early of this month, businesses, only about 37% were fully staffed. Fewer than that were making normal revenues for this time of year. So, certainly those numbers will improve, I expect, as businesses start to open, but we certainly can't celebrate yet because, again, for most businesses, they're going to be open just a quarter of what they'd normally be able to do.
Jonathan Alward, he's the director for the Prairie region of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Good to catch up with you as always.
Thank you.
Thanks.